Yes, we are live. Welcome everyone. Hope you're having an amazing weekend, and I'm very excited for this time's live. For different reasons. One of them is because the festivals are coming. This is really exciting for me, and there's a sign that, well, my grandmother used to always tell me that this week is like the beginning of all the festivals, or like basically the coming week, because the next Shabbat, well, tomorrow basically, the prayers have like some extra chants and prayers and poems that we actually don't read every Shabbat or chant every Shabbat. These include celebrating a few things, like, for example, we celebrate that this is the first time that Moses, Moshe in ancient Hebrew, meets his brother, Aaron. And this is really exciting because, you know, that they're on this mission now. So this is like a start of the mission. So even though we already read that part in the Torah now we're beginning to read the part where Pharaoh is just about to give up, right? The miracle of the firstborn is about to happen. But we are not celebrating that tomorrow. We're celebrating Moshe meeting his brother Aaron, and they're starting this huge mission. And I love it because, you know, again, my grandmother used to tell me that basically this is like the sign of the spring coming, and the hard, cold winter days are finishing, especially because, you know, if you've ever been on Mount Gerizim, you know that it's really cold on the mountain here. And so I'm really excited. So what happens is also that we have this we always have like the weekly parasha where we read all the Torah, all the like portions of the Torah every week, a certain portion every week, like, you know, like in the Jewish traditions. And then tomorrow morning, like Saturday morning, Shabbat morning, about 6 a.m., 7 a.m., we read the parasha. And after that, all the families basically have I'm pretty much aware all the families have this beautiful tradition of the knafa. After we read the parasha, someone will bring a knafa, and then we will, you know, dig in. It's kind of like sweet, really tasty pastry dish, if you don't know about it. What's really interesting about knafa, by the way, if you don't know, is that the origins of it is actually Nablus, Shechem, Ashkem. So yeah, this is like really a start of a beautiful. Like, Samaritans love the fest. Like, you can ask any Samaritan, they will tell you they love the festivals. My favorite festival is definitely, like, my favorite day of the year is definitely the Pesach, the Passover day, specifically the day of like the Kurban. And, you know, there's also the community of Holon, the Samaritans living in Holon, coming to Mount Gerizim. So that's really exciting times. Welcome, Sam. Aaron, what did you say? Also, Abud, is in your last stream when I said I believe Samaritans are part of Israel, I meant to say I believe Samaritans are part of Israel. Sure. Thank you for sharing that. I like to see that. A lot of people don't believe that, and that I think there's like different reasons why they believe that, but, you know, maybe, you know, that's part of this my mission in this YouTube channel, to kind of like spread awareness maybe about the authentic traditions of the Samaritans connected to the Israelites. So yeah, really exciting week coming. I love the chance in this specific Shabbat, and also after Shabbat finishes, the adults go around the houses and they give out money basically to the kids of the neighborhood, unless you're like above 18 or something, or like maybe even up until 15 you stop getting. I wish I could save up all those. It would be interesting. But as a kid, I used to think like would keep all the money, but then, you know, your parents will have a little bit of the half and they will leave you another half because they as a kid, you're probably not responsible to hold that much money. But yeah, good to see everyone. All right, so basically, I wanted to share a few things in this live. If you read the thumbnail and also the title, it's about the archaeology and history of the Torah. And also talking about what's going to happen in the next few weeks in terms of the traditions. So currently the prayers are going like this. Every week, obviously we have 3 hours from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. Prayers every week, every Shabbat. And basically 2 hours after the prayer begins, so around like 5:30 a.m., the high priest will read the one of the miracles, one of the 10 miracles that happened in Egypt, in a beautiful melody that is known, and they will and he will basically keep reading every single miracle every week. Like every week, there's a specific miracle until we get to the final miracle, the firstborn, and then after that, it's a sign of the Passover coming, the Pesach. So that's how it goes. And 14 days before the Passover ceremony, we start praying every day, morning and evening. Also special prayers for that. So I'll share more about that in the future. Okay. So I'm just going here, like trying to remember what I read from the last time and from the first time. But I also want to, last live I came across this book and it was really interesting for me because especially there's a few words that I'm still learning about. So let's see here. So yeah, it's just I'm picking up here randomly. So what does it say here? Building on these data, Megan suggests the following historical outline for the temple on Mount Gerizim. So this talks about the temple from its construction in the 5th century BCE to the destruction of the site in the late 2nd century BCE. So it talks about the destruction of the site. So it probably means that there was a city. We know there was 10,000 Samaritans living on the top of Mount Gerizim, something around like 1,700 years ago, if I'm not wrong. Construction of the temple in the mid 5th century BCE, perhaps by Sanballat. By the way, maybe some of you heard about Sanballat. I'm still learning about those, but I always hear the word Sanballat. Let me know if you heard about Sanballat in the past. So you can see here he established a priestly lineage at Mount Gerizim. So he was a priest. Second here, the temple at Mount Gerizim grew in political and religious importance following the destruction of Samaria by Alexander the Great and the migration of Samaritan leadership to Mount Gerizim. Mount Gerizim then became the religious, national, economic, and political center of the Samaritans during the Ptolemaic period. All right, one sec. I want to share something here. Chat GBT, for example, has been, for me, it's been a kind of like a trial and error also with ChatGPT. I wanted to just ask it about a specific question here. So what is this period and how you pronounce it is my question. Ptolemaic. Ptole. Ooh, I'm not typing. Emaic. Was it like this? Let's see if it doesn't know. All right, the Ptolemaic period or dynasty refers to the period of ancient Egyptian history that spanned from the death of Alexander the Great in the 323 BC until the Roman conquest of Egypt. So basically it's the times of Alexander the Great. Okay. Continuing on. Sorry for this one. This is not my channel exactly. I'm helping with editing. Okay. What was here? Cool. So here it says Textual Pluriformity in the late Second Temple period. What is this word? So, pluriformity refers to the condition of or state of having multiple forms, shapes, or types. It can refer to a wide variety of things. So it's kind of like variety, I guess. So it can also be unbiological, but I think it means kind of diversity. Okay. Also, it talks about why there was like the differences or diversities. So like there's 3 editions of why there's the Samaritan Torah, the Maseratic Text, and the I guess you can see the Dead Sea Scrolls, the LXX. It says here the SP is connected to the broader biblical tradition, providing a unique witness to that tradition. And the Samaritan Pentateuch is connected to a Second Temple literary milieu. Hope I'm pronouncing this one correct. Apart from which, our understanding of the biblical tradition itself can only be partial and incomplete. Interesting. So it talks about like they will examine specific Qumran texts that have immediate bearing on the Samaritan Pentateuch and its development. Let's say, all right. Qumran and the textual history of the Hebrew Bible. Here it talks about just Qumran and the Hebrew Bible. By the way, if you're interested, there's a really interesting website that you can upload your PDF. Now that I'm thinking about it, I really want to do it here. But there's a really interesting website you can check out. It's called PDF Chat, where you can upload your like any PDF on this website, and you can have a conversation almost with that PDF. You can ask it questions like, what does this text say about this or that, and it will answer you just like ChatGPT. It's really interesting. Okay, let's see. Text written in the Qumran practice. A large group of the Qumran texts display a similar and distinctive orthography, morphology, and scribal practices, suggesting that they were produced at Qumran. These documents reflect the different textual backgrounds, having been copied from a Proto-Maseratic text, pre-Samaritan text, and other non-aligned texts. The group evidences a free approach to the biblical text, which is reflected in the adaptations of unusual forms of the context, infrequent errors, in numerous corrections, and sometimes also in negligent script. Tov identifies 25 texts, 17 of them biblical, from Qumran written in the Qumran practices. So there's basically 17 of them biblical, meaning like I guess from the Torah or Tanakh, the prophets and writings. You have the proto-Maseratic text. So when we say proto-Maseratic text, I always hear proto-Maseratic text. It refers to, let's just make sure. All right, it refers to an early stage of the development of the Maseratic text, which is the authoritative Hebrew text of the Jewish Bible. The Maseratic text was compiled and edited by Jewish scholars known as the Masorites. Oh, this is why it's called the Maseratic. I thought it's connected to Masorah or something. All right, who worked between the 7th and 10th century CE to standardize the Hebrew text and develop a system of vowel and accents marked to aid its pronunciation. So we know that, I'm pretty sure the viewers know that the pronunciation of Hebrew and ancient Hebrew is, or like Samaritan Hebrew and the Assyrian Hebrew, which is the Hebrew used today in Israel, is different. So during this time, Jewish scholars worked to preserve and transmit the Hebrew text of the Bible through copying and studying manuscripts and developing methods of vocalization and accentuation to aid in its recitation and interpretation. Okay. Also, if you if you're wondering what is the LXX, let's see what ChatGPT has to do. I'm just gonna say scroll. What are the... Okay. Okay, so the LXX, if you're wondering, it says here the collection of ancient Greek translations of the Hebrew Bible, also known as the Tanakh. So it's the Greek translations. That's the LXX. That are commonly referred to as the Septuagint. The name Septuagint comes from the Latin word for 70, which refers to the tradition that the translation was the work of 70 Jewish scholars who translated the Hebrew text into Greek in Alexandria, Egypt. So you might find this interesting, but there's also a really, really old a Greek translation of the Samaritan Torah. Something around like 1,500 years old. Have to search about that. You think ChatGPT knows about it? Was there a Greek translation of the Samaritan Torah, and how old was it? Because I know, but let's see if it has anything in its database here. I've been told so. And I also I got even the link for this, but I lost it. I'm sure I have it somewhere. It says here, there's no evidence that a Greek translation of the Samaritan Torah or Pentateuch, first 5 books of the Hebrew. It's weird that it says there's no evidence, although I had the link, but let's see. The Samaritan Torah is a version of the Pentateuch that is distinct. Well, now it's talking about it. Let's give it time to answer, but let's continue here. Parallel versions. It says here parallel versions of what would later become biblical books existed side by side with the Qumran library in the Second Temple period. The biblical books themselves were considered sacred, or at least authoritative, not their specific textual forms. This variety has led to considerable debate on the extent to which one text can differ from another version before it should be considered a new composition. I think I read this last live. Okay. So, to what context, to what degree, or to what, to what degree can you change the text or the Torah where you can still call it Torah or Tanakh? I guess that's what I've read last time. Combining the categories of Tov with the conceptual spectrum developed by Crawford, we now recognize at least 3 sets of Pentateuchal traditions at Qumran. So again, whenever you hear the Qumran scrolls, there's 3 you have to take into account: the Maseratic Text, the pre-Samaritan, the Samaritan Pentateuch, and the LXX, the Greek translations, right? All right, let's skip forward. Does it have anything to say here? While there were Greek translations of the Hebrew Bible, such as the Septuagint, which include the Pentateuch, there is no evidence of a Greek translation of Samaritan Torah. It is possible that Samaritans may have had their own translations or adaptations of the text in other languages, but there's little information about that. Overall, the earliest known copies of Samaritan Torah date back to the 12th and 13th century CE. Although the text itself is believed to be much older, dating back to the times of the Samaritan community split from Judaism. It's really interesting here that it says Samaritan communities split from Judaism, because a lot of people wouldn't say it's a split. They would say Samaritans came. So if we ask it, for example, how do you think it knows the word kutim? What is the word kutim? By the way, is sometimes what people refer to, some Jewish people refer to Samaritans, meaning that they came from Kuta, which is near Iraq, in Hebrew, let's say. What is the Kutim in Hebrew? So ChatGPT here says, in Hebrew, the Kutim or Samaritans are a religious ethnic group. So it talks about Samaritans, so it apparently knows in the database. The Kutim are also have their... Okay. So now it's using both words. So we really never use this word Kutim, because we really don't have this belief that we were ever in Kuta, really. I mean, we don't have any record of that. That's what I'm trying to say, in our traditions or any kind of history. What does Kutim... where does the word come from? I wanted to ask. So again, it's Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq, in the area around the city of Babylon. According to the Hebrew Bible, the Kutim were one of the groups that were brought to Israel by the Assyrian king Sargon II after the conquest of the northern kingdom of Israel in the 8th century BCE. So it says here, they intermarried with remaining Israelites in the region and developed their own distinct religious and cultural traditions. In later Jewish literature, the Kutim were often portrayed as heretics and enemies of the Jewish people, which contributed to the negative connotations associated with the term. However, in modern times, the term Kutim is referred to the Samaritan community. So today there's less people, I think, who use it. A lot of Israelis today accept that Samaritans are from the Israelites. So there's different debates about it. All right, let's skip forward here and see where we land. So we have Sidney White Crawford, a scholar, I believe, has provided a very clear and concise description of the pre-Samaritan text type. He said the Samaritan Pentateuch, in fact, contains an ancient tradition of the Pentateuch current in Palestine in the Second Temple period. The Samaritans adopted this Palestinian text. Palestinian text. Wonder why he called it like that, as their canonical text, and in the process added it to a thin veneer of sectarian editing, bringing the text into lines with their theology. He probably means here that he says the Samaritans added something that it's Mount Gerizim, which is some typical belief you find about Samaritans by many scholars. So this, but a lot of people, after the Qumran scrolls, a lot of people started to, think twice about this, because the evidence is not so clear about Samaritans having added this, editing just to support the theology and ideology, or whatever you want to call it. So, again, so it says here, this sectarian editing is easy to isolate first. Where Jerusalem is alluded to as the central place of worship for the Israelites, the Samaritans inserted a reference to Mount Gerizim. So this is interesting, because this is true. Har Gerizim, is one word for us. But if you go, like you see here, Har Gerizim. But if you go to the Jewish Bible, the Jewish Torah, you would see Har Gerizim as two words. So remember that. That's one huge difference we have. And I remember I asked my uncle, so wait, why do we have Mount Gerizim as one word, Har Gerizim? And he said that it's because of, first of all, it has always been like that. It's just simply called Har Gerizim because it's a very known mountain, and it's also the holiness of it. So it's just one word. It's Mount Gerizim. It's not the mountain of Gerizim. It's just known to be one word. But that's I'm sure there's different interpretations, but that's what what's common in the Samaritan community, what's believed. They should not use the word Kutim interchangeable with Samaritans. Yeah, you're right. It does have it even mentioned here, there's a negative connotation to it now. So if you read here, it says, second, to emphasize the notion that God has already chosen Mount Gerizim as the appropriate place of worship before entrance into Canaan. The Samaritan Pentateuch consistently. So it's interesting here that it says before entrance to Canaan, although we do not believe that it was even before the entrance of Canaan. We believe that it was chosen already even at the times of Adam, Noah, of Abraham, Abram. And for example, there are certain sentences that kind of pointed at, for example, the sentence the verse that says that asks, when God asked Abraham, go to one of the mountains that I will show you. We already have okay, so why one of the mountains? Could have said any mountain, right? Or something like that. So he said, go to one of the mountains that I will show you. And then we have this other story of Yaakov, the prophet Yaakov. He woke up from the dream. And so here's one thing I read last week. Was it last week or 2 weeks ago? Samaritan commentary on the Torah. They the scholar talks about when Yaakov, the prophet Yaakov, when he woke up from the dream, he said, "In zeki bet eluim," this must be the house of God, "Uzeshar ashamim," and this must be the gates of heaven. And then, either before or after that, I'm not sure, he says, "Akin yesh b'malkom, akin yesh eluim b'malkom ezeh." Which means that there is God in this place, and I didn't know. And then it says, and he got afraid. Like, that's what I think would be a translation. He got afraid. So the commentary says that he got afraid because he had to do a korban, because he was already in this place, and he had to have like a korban, a sacrifice to the Lord, because he was already in this holy place. So we already talking only about Parashit, Genesis, right? So this is one comment, really interesting commentary on the Torah. Is there an official way to translate Har Gerizim in English and maybe in Dutch? I'm not aware any official way to to pronounce it, but to translate it, Har Gerizim, no, I think it's always has been just the word Gerizim. So, but now that makes me wonder if ChatGPT kind of have any idea of like what is the origin of the word Gerizim when we talk about Mount Gerizim, right? That's a question. He is told to take off his shoes. Wasn't that Moses? I don't drink Coca-Cola. All right, here it says the word Gerizim is a Hebrew term that refers to a mountain located in the region of Samaria, which is the northern part of the West Bank. Okay. So it's believed to have several possible origins. Okay, this is interesting. From the Hebrew root word garaz, which means to cut off or to separate, this could be a reference to the fact that Mount Gerizim is separated from the nearby mountain Ebal by a valley, and that two mountains were seen as symbolically representing the blessings and the cursing of the Torah. Oh, this is the first time I hear this. This is interesting. Thank you so much, Maur, for reminding me. So, second reason. So, first reason, it says the word garaz. It means to cut off or to separate, meaning that it's separated from Mount Ebal, because Mount Ebal and Mount Gerizim, they're symbolically always together. That one is the mountain of blessings on Mount Gerizim, and then you have the mountain of cursings, Ebal. Second one, from the Aramaic word geriz, which means rocky or stony. This could be a reference to the rugged terrain of the mountain. Is it rugged? Wow, I can't agree. I mean, it's really green here, so, but it's also a mountain, so you also don't expect it to be as green as, other, how can you say, like straight lands. Forgot the word for that. All right, the third word is from the Canaanite word, also grz, grez, which means to shine or to sparkle. This could be a reference to the fact that the mountain has a distinctive reddish-brown color, especially at sunrise and sunset. It's a try, maybe. Mount Gerizim is an important site for both Jews and Samaritans, who have their own distinct religious and cultural traditions associated with the mountain. The Samaritans consider Mount Gerizim to be the holiest site. All right. Continuing on here. Okay. Oh, it talks also about other interesting things here. I see Bachar and Yivchar. So, second, to emphasize the notion that God has already chosen Mount Gerizim as the appropriate place of worship before entrance into Canaan, the Samaritan Pentateuch consistently changes the Deuteronomy formula, the place which the Lord will choose, Yivchar, and oblique reference to Jerusalem, to the place which the Lord had chosen. So we have, like in Samaritan Torah, you have Bachar, chose, instead of Yivchar, will choose, meaning that Mount Gerizim was already chosen. However, once this thin veneer of sectarian changes is removed, a fairly easy task, what remains is an expanded text of the Pentateuch, characterized by massive and deliberate harmonizations and content editing. All right, reflecting this consensus view, Magnar Kartviet notes that the Samaritan Pentateuch originated in at least two stages. The first stage of the development resulted in a text that we have witnessed to the biblical manuscripts. These texts have termed pre-Samaritan, and pre-Samaritan texts include of all the major expansions found in Samaritan Pentateuch. In addition to these major expansions, numerous minor variations when compared to the Maseratic text are found in the pre-Samaritan Qumran text that are also shared with the LXX. This observation leads Kartviet to conclude that the major variants were inserted into the text following the LXX, but prior to the 4Q text, that is sometimes the 2nd to the 1st centuries BCE. Building on these observations, Reinhard Pommer notes that there is now a consensus among scholars that the Samaritan Pentateuch is an adoption of a pre-Samaritan or harmonistic text known from Qumran that was produced in the 2nd or 1st century BCE. In this chapter, we will survey those. Here it talks about also Paleo-Hebrew, so this is interesting. Prior to examination of pre-Samaritan Qumran materials, there is one question of Qumran Scrabble practice that must be addressed because of its unique application to the Samaritan Pentateuch. If you've never seen the Dead Sea Scrolls, real quickly here, it has most of what I've seen. Most of what I've seen was written in Assyrian Hebrew, so this is why I'm searching for it again here. So this is like, these are photos of the place of the cave probably that they were found. I just want a more close-up photo. Maybe this one. Oh, really small. I've never seen like an actual Samaritan writing in the Qumran scrolls, but there's like the word Yud He Vav He, the name of God, basically written whenever there was the name of God mentioned. It was written in ancient Hebrew instead. All right. Anyways, you can search here. You can see a few photos of those here. All right. Just a quick look here. I also have opened here the PDF. I also have the Israelite Samaritan text, basically the Samaritan edition of the Torah, and you have the Jewish Maseratic text on the right. Also been studying the differences, so let's see here. I'm at the kind of the Exodus book, second book. Let's see if there's major changes in this part here. So it says here, and it shall be when Shema your Elohim brings you to the land Canaanite, and it shall be when Adonai shall bring these in the hand of the Canaanite, the Hittite. So the Hittites are like also, we say in ancient Hebrew, A'iti, have the Gergeshi, Pharisee. So here apparently it doesn't mention those. It only mentions A'iti and Amorite. But in the Samaritan it mentions the A'iti, Gergeshi, Amari, Pharisee, A'ibi, Yebusi. I'm like more. I wonder why. Okay, this is one important difference here. 6 days you shall eat unleavened bread, and on the 7th day there shall be a feast to Shema. But here it says 7 days in the Jewish book. 7 days in the Jewish Torah. So it says 7 days thou shalt eat unleavened bread, and it's the first time I see this difference. And in the 7th day shall be a feast to Adonai. So again, in the Samaritan one, it says 6 days you shall eat unleavened bread, and on the 7th day there shall be a feast to Shema. Here on the right, in the Jewish Maseratic text, 7 days you shall eat, and on the 7th day there shall be a feast to Adonai. Alright, here also we have, and when Shema your Elohim, but in the Jewish one, and when Adonai, but without your Elohim. You know, some people, when tourists ask me sometimes, like, So what's the difference between the Samaritan Torah and the Jewish Torah, or like the differences between Samaritans and Jews? I often mention one differences would be the Torah. We have 6,000 differences. And then I mentioned that there's not much differences, but there's 6,000 in the Torah, and they laugh, thinking that I'm like exaggerating that I said no. But actually, as you can see here, all the highlighted words are actually differences that can be grammatical differences or differences in words, something like that. So they can make a difference, definitely. And sometimes huge differences, like you saw the choose or chosen, will choose or chosen. So okay, we're gonna have a small change of topic, like a break, and I want to try this I don't know how you call it, activity, game, or whatever, where I sometimes do it with my friends. I created this game, I'm not sure if I mentioned this here. I created this game with my friends where I talk about, I mention a verse in the Torah, and then they have to start the verse with the last letter of the sentence or the verse that I mentioned in the Torah. But here it's going to be a little bit different. I want the ChatGPT to choose a random verse, and then I want to just comment on that from the Torah. So give me a random verse from the Torah. Then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. In ancient Hebrew we say, "U'ya'omer Elohim, Ya'ior, U'ya'ior." So that's one difference. So that's one of my favorite actually in the Torah, because it says that basically, like, this is the first thing that God created, right? And also, this is not only the first thing that God created, it's, some people would not accept that this is the first thing that God created, but that this is the first thing that God said also. Because if you go and read from Genesis, this is literally the first word that the Torah mentions that God said, right? So I love it. And a lot of people have different interpretations of what the light means. Some people, like in the Samaritan traditions, there's a belief that this light was actually Moses, and also it was the Torah, right? So beautiful. One more. Honor your father and your mother so that you may live long in the land that the Lord your God is giving you. This is also a huge one, definitely, and it has different things that we can say about, like, for example, honor your father and your mother. A lot of Samaritans scholars talked about honoring father and mother, meaning that this is a secret, also one of the secrets to life's happiness, that if your mother and father are proud of you, if you make them proud, then God will give you success in life, and also that your life will flow well. That's something like, in some people, I've heard like one friend saying that it's even like evolution, from an even evolutionary perspective, it just makes you less depressed, that you have good relations with your grandfather, with your father and mother. And also it says here that you may live long and in the land the Lord your God is giving you, meaning that we do not really have a destined age to live to, right? That it is in our hands that we can live longer. So you see what I mean? So again, so that you may live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you. A lot of Samaritans would say that this is a good proof that God doesn't really decide how long will you live from the day that you were born, but that it's something that you can actually affect, if that makes sense. All right, one more. And you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with your might. In ancient Hebrew we say, that's also one of my favorite verses, because when we say you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, so how does someone do that? How can you love God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might? Is it by praying hard? Well, maybe that's one thing, so that you pray hard, you pray with all your strength and all your soul. That's one thing. But also, And this is why what my grandfather always used to tell me: to love a God with all your heart and all your soul and all your might and all your strength is also to live life and to work hard and to serve your family and to really to serve also your people, your nation. That it really means like that, because when you wake up in the morning and you go to work and it sometimes doesn't feel so good and you don't want to do it, you remember this verse and it gives you a lot of power to go and continue. This is the kind of love that we believe as Samaritans is this verse pointing out to. And it means really like it means to work hard. This is the real love, that you suffer for the better also. Beautiful verse. Let's go for one more. The Lord is my strength and the Lord is my strength and my song, and he has become my salvation. This is my God, and I will praise him, my father's God, and I will exalt him. Wow, that's definitely one of my favorite verses. In ancient Hebrew, we say Azzi uzimrati wa ili Yeshua. Ze ili wenabeu elu wi abi weru minneu. So if you're not familiar, this is the song of the sea. In the Song of the Sea. Basically, I would say this was sang by Moses, or written by Moses, if that makes sense, because this was really sang when they were crossing the sea. And there's a really, really beautiful melody specifically for this in the community. We actually have 5 melodies to sing the Song of the Sea. One is fast, one is slower, and then gets slower and slower and slower. So I'll share about that in the future. Okay, let's do 2 more. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. This is in Jeremiah, so I'm not familiar with it, but it says plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. Do tell us in the comments if you know this verse. Pablo Marquez, are you married? Yes, I am. Like 8th month actually till now. All right, one more from the Torah. And God spoke all these words, saying, I'm the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. So this is from the 10 Commandments, right? Anaki shema eluak. Anaki means I am. And also, definitely one of my favorite verses. Okay, before we end this live, I have this exciting thing I want to share with you guys. I'm kind of thinking about like starting this series, I'm not sure when, probably soon, about kind of creating this kind of class where I teach people how to read ancient Hebrew. Let me know if that sounds interesting, because it will go something like, I'll show you in a sec. I'll share my screen. I just want to open the notepad here. If I go here, let's see, and make the text a little bit, then go to Hebrew, and then format. So I have a font. So I also want to create a font. Apparently you can create a font. This is the Hebrew font. This is Aleph, A, Beat, Gaman, Dalat, A. How amazing is it? We're in the 21st century and we have ancient Hebrew on the computer. It's taken for granted in my opinion. So it would go like this. Like I would really love to have ancient Hebrew, because this what sparked this idea in my mind is that I've read somewhere that ancient Hebrew is endangered. There's very few people that speak it, and it kind of like scared me a little bit. That would be really sad to have ancient Hebrew vanish, and that also means that Samaritans would vanish if ancient Hebrew would vanish, because we literally use it every day. At least every week. Yeah, you like it? That's awesome. Yeah, definitely. Like, I really thought about it. It could go like this. So you would have to, first of all, learn all the words. So it would be alaf, bid, gamal, dalat, i. So you would have to just, I'll make a like, you can definitely see some Google pictures of explaining what each letter of the Samaritan alphabet is, how is it pronounced. So this would be alaf. Would start with, you have to learn how to pronounce each letter. So this would be alaf, this would be beat, this would be gaman. By the way, in Hebrew, and modern Hebrew would say gimel, gaman, so nun. We don't say gamal. Dalat would be this one. When you said you thought Maseratic comes from Mesora, you were right. Wikipedia says Meres in English for Baalei HaMesora. Oh, thank you for confirming that, Stephen. I had a feeling that that's where the word Maseratic comes from. It makes sense, right? So, E is how we pronounce this letter. Okay, consider it the first lesson, guys. So, E, I think, or maybe this how you would pronounce it, maybe. Okay, and then, the challenge would come when I, for example, put this word for you, which is, let's say, the combination of B and A would be like this. That's beat and alaf, right? So obviously B and A, you would say ba, right? But it can also be ba. And how we differentiate that would be either by the context or by just knowing the verse that this is a ba and not a ba. And by the way, there's like if you say ba in like when we're reading the Torah, if you say ba and it's a ba, it's a huge mistake. It's really like people will correct you. It's obviously like a huge difference. I want to read the Samaritan Bible. Do you have a link? If you can search, by the way, in PDF, I think it's PDF Drive, I believe. PDF Drive or something. You can search for the Samaritan Bible. I have this PDF open. So search for the Israelite Samaritan version of the Torah, first English translation, compared to the Jewish translation. You can find it. So what I have to find and learn in order to teach you guys how to read this would be, I have to find the what's it called, the signs above it, and I'm pretty sure I can find them somewhere. Like if I go here, they have to be like, it's a shift with, there we go. So this sign, for example, is like a quick E. So if you put it on the beat, it would be a B. Let's see this other sign. This sign, for example, would be U, a fast U. So, there we go. We also have the ba, by the way. So let's make it a little bit tidier. So this sign here, this straight line, this strong line, if it comes above a letter, it would be a ba, an a. While, let's see, but while this stick, the vertical stick, is an a. Ooh, again, this letter, this stick is an a. If it's a long stick, it's an a. If it's a short stick, it's an a. And this is like, this wasn't, of course, invented like 500 or 10,000 years ago or something, or 1,000 years ago or something like that. It's recent, maybe even like, I don't know, 500 years ago or something. I'm not sure about the exact date, but it helps us read the Torah better, because what was usually done is that the Torah used to be learned by heart because there was no books all around. But today you can print books and you can have, you can read them better, basically, with those marks. What else do we have? This, well, should be a little bit more vertical, but it would be a ain, because we do have a but it helps us like confirm that it's this small like circle is, if you find it above a letter, this circle, it means that it's a stop. So if I want to say I'm like not thinking of any word right now, but let's say like it just basically makes you not move the letter, that you would just stop at that letter. Shepta, for example, if you want to learn Shepta, if you say Shepta, sorry, why is it bouncing around? It's really hard. Shepta, if there was this sign, then I wouldn't say Shebi, I would say Sheb. I would stop on the B. That's what this sentence mean, this circle mean. Okay. So again, this is something that it's in the works. I'm just, obviously, as you can see, I need a better platform to fix everything here. It's really messy all around, to just make like a tidier way to teach you guys about it. But I think it would be incredibly meaningful for me to share the Samaritan language, especially, or Samaritan Hebrew, especially because I believe that, you can unlock maybe something beautiful in the Torah, something really holy, when you read it in ancient Hebrew. So that's what I believe. Okay, I think this is it for today. I do have to go now, guys. So hope you liked this one. Definitely learned a lot today. There's I didn't read so much from this book, but it's so far what I mostly like about it is that I'm learning some words that I sometimes skip over. And now I'm reading every word and I'm trying to understand every word, because it's obviously important to understand the whole, scholarly, I don't know how you call it,